In a number of spiritual paths, your deeper questions might find answers in a session in the pastor's study. You're looking for something more, so let's offer you something different. Merry meet, blessed be. I'm Hayden Odinson, and welcome to another session in a very different pastor's study. Take a look at the calendar, and we're looking at Martin Luther King Day. But we also recently had that shooting in Tucson. There's going to be a lot of speeches about Martin Luther King Day, and one of the things from Martin Luther King Day applies to Tucson. And I'd like to look at Tucson, because once upon a time, and for a very long time, Tucson was one of my favorite places to be. That's where there were some pretty neat people that I used to love to visit. And some really neat things to see. I really loved that town. And then an uncle of mine moved there. My dad's little brother, 10 years younger than him. And my dad was living in Phoenix at the time, so not that far away by the standards of people who live in that part of the country. So yeah, you mentioned Tucson to me. There's some definite images there. Tucson shootings, they ought to be an alarm, but I don't think we're getting the kind of alarm that we need, with one exception. And I hope that one exception is listened to awfully well. And of course, we've got our various pundits, political and otherwise, who want to point to gun control or mental health legislation and trying to sell these as magic pills that are going to cure all the problems, and maybe you make your morning cup of coffee too. I've been hearing about gun control since John Kennedy was killed. And you know what? A criminal doesn't have much more difficult time buying a gun now than he did then. He may not be able to mail order it just blindly by signing a piece of paper saying, yeah, I'm over 18 and I don't have a criminal record. But, well, you know. And there hasn't been that much done about giving people reasons not to run around with guns. I have this theory. It's basically an economic theory that most people, if they're given a decent job with a real future and know that they're gonna have that, they'll probably put down the gun to pick up a lunchbox or a briefcase. Okay, but let's talk about Tucson. We've also heard from somebody who pointed out that a Sarah Palin website had crosshairs on it, including on that one congresswoman's district. And I know what crosshairs mean. I've got a chest full of ribbons that say that I've learned how to operate various firearms, so I know what crosshairs mean. And I also heard Sarah Palin, who my personal opinion is, I consider her to be the Paris Hilton of American politics. And I've heard her talk about blood libel. I'm not sure she understands what that actually means. I got something to say to both sides of that issue. Somebody who wants to point out to crosshairs on a website and say that that's why, very rare and exceptional that one website would encourage somebody to something like that. And to Sarah Palin and anybody else who would want to put up a website like that, that may be one drop in a bucket. But I ask you to please take a look at a full bucket. And you know what? The bucket's full of drops. We may talk about the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. But guess what? There were all those individual other straws too. And I wouldn't want one of my straws to be found on that particular broken camel's back. And I don't think you would either. But I think the person who said what we really need the best, absolutely, is President Obama. When he said regarding Christina Green, a 9-year-old girl interested in civics, and so she wanted to be there to meet her congressperson, and she was shot and killed. And what did President Obama say? That we need a democracy, we need a country that's as good as Christina imagined it to be. Now let's look at that. Let's ponder that a minute. That's as good as Christina imagined it to be. Now I want to toss out another word and see how this fits. Disillusionment. Disillusion. Removing the illusion. So, President Obama gave us the formula for what we need. And at the same time, from that and from the opposite, from what we don't want, we can see the formula. How do you define the happy times, the good times, the times when things were going the way they were supposed to be going? Well, how about this for a working definition? When the fact and the illusion match. Now, for instance, somebody wants to say we have democracy and wants to also keep a record of what books I read or where I go on the web or what friends I have, maybe even wants to hassle me about how I'm going to vote. That's not democracy, is it? I remember a young lady in Kenya being interviewed when President Obama was a candidate. And she said, if Barack Obama can be elected president in your country, then you must have a true democracy. You see where I'm getting at? Where does that apply for us? Those of us in various forms of the craft, spirituality that works, well, okay. One of the slogans I have for the Wise Ones Net is religious programming that actually works. Now, there was a slogan in the 20s, America works for those who work. Now, I'm way too young to know the 1920s, but I am old enough to know the 1950s, because I was born towards the end of the 1940s. So that was elementary school years for me. The 1950s, where anybody who had a decent job, and I'm talking about basically almost any job more than minimum wage that gave you a decent pay and was reasonably steady, just about anybody with a reasonable job could buy a house. Leastways in the areas where I was living. I don't know about New York, Boston, some of those, but I do know in Minneapolis and in Oregon, the guy that drove the milk truck, the guy that delivered the letters, they had houses. They owned their own houses. Everybody liked Ike. President Eisenhower. Yes, there were Republicans and Democrats, there were controversies, and there were disputes, but somehow people worked together and the right things seemed to happen. Or at least for most of us, as I was saying earlier. The illusion and the fact matched. So there we go. We're only asking for things to be the way we claim them to be. That's not so difficult, is it? We're saying we don't want to live a lie. If somebody wants to stand up and crow that we've got the greatest healthcare system in the world, well, we better have it and not be denying people, etc. And this is something that those of us of the magical persuasions can understand. It certainly goes with our basic principles. And I think we can see what we need to do. I think it's visible. And I think it's doable. And us working together is one of the first parts of it, after all. We should be able to do among ourselves what we would like others to do. And so there you have it. Lessons from Tucson. What we need to do and what I hope we can look forward to. I might, blessed be. Uriel's Gifts and The Secrets in Plain Sight are sponsored by the Temple of Gaia At Temple of Gaia, we don't train you to our path. We show you how to find and pursue your own path. Above all, we tried to provide a great place to come together and to share. We're located in Collingdale, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, and wherever cyberspace can be reached. To learn more, visit our website at templeofgaiainc.org or our meeting place in cyberspace at templeofgaia.ning.com. Thank you for coming. Feel free to return at any time. We intend to always have something for you here. Blessed be. This has been a presentation of the Wise Ones Net. Merry part and blessed be.